The 2023-24 fiscal year was another record-breaking one for the tourism industry, and the portfolio minister spoke about the headlines when he opened the sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. But just where is the growth coming from and how sustainable in it? And importantly, what of the lot of tourism workers? Have their welfare needs been taken care of in the last fiscal year? And are they in line to reap a bonanza in this current financial year? Those questions and more for the Tourism Minister, Edmund Bartlett, on Lead Story this afternoon. Welcome to Lead Story here on CVM TV. My name is George Davis. Tourism is the gift that continues to give. And as the Tourism Minister outlined when he opened the sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday, the budget debate went earlier. Sectoral debate is now on, and he opened the innings with news that the industry continues to see big numbers, or record numbers, and the headline statement is that tourism in Jamaica is in rude health. He stops by this afternoon for a conversation that can't hold in one show, so he's consented to be with us for 2 episodes. So we'll be broadcasting the first of these today, and then we'll be doing the second one the day after to complete the picture of the performance of this most important of industries. Ed Bartlett, welcome to Lead Story, sir.
Thank you very much, George, and a very pleasant evening to the listeners across Jamaica and in Cyberland.
Excellent. And the viewers as well. It's a TV medium. You used to be on radio, that's why you said that. There you go.
Viewers and listeners.
Excellent, sir.
Yes.
Just give us the overall picture of the industry's performance in a year in this period that you can still refer to as post-COVID. We're so near to that cataclysmic event that you still measure things by where you were before. But 2023-24 in numbers, what are you looking at?
Right. So we can say that Jamaica has been fully recovered from the impact of COVID-19 in terms of the tourism arrivals, as well as the revenue and the jobs. Mm-hmm. So 2022-23 became the new benchmark year for tourism measurements onward. Mm-hmm. We were able to annex the 4 million mark in terms of arrivals, 4.2 million, and we were able to annex the $4 billion earning mark to 4.38 billion.
Yes.
Now, you recall that I had established my KPIs of 5 million visitors, $5 billion in earning in 5 years, starting in 2020, and then, of course, COVID came, and most people thought that that whole KPI would be totally eviscerated as a result. Well, the good news is that we are looking now at a possible 5 by 4 by 5.
Mm-hmm. So rather than 555, it's 545.
It is now looking like, so that at the end of 2024, we anticipate to reach the 5 million visitors, 5 billion earnings, and now in 4 years.
Yeah, you know, let me put this question up front because I was working on a news item earlier this week, and I saw something out of the Cayman Islands to say they had recorded record earnings from stopover arrivals in the first 3 months of this year, which led me to think, as I anticipated your sectoral debate contribution, what's the health of competition in the region? Is it that Jamaica just Jamaicans itself on the international market and people just come? Or are we out there actively fighting to say, don't go to the Caymans, come here. Don't go to Barbados, come here?
We never compete in that atmosphere. Jamaica, we've adopted now what we call the blue ocean strategy, where we're not in the red ocean where the competition is everywhere around you. And the blood is all over the place. we are in the rarefied atmosphere, where if you use the ocean, we're in the deep of the ocean, where the catch is better. Yes. The fish is larger.
Yeah, snapper them bigger.
Exactly. And you are in a unique space. So that's where we are in Jamaica. And when I indicated our policy direction and the vision and mission, you would see very clearly that Jamaica is miles and miles ahead of the destinations around us in terms of how we market, where we go, what we do in terms of the infrastructure that is required to enable sustainable growth. Yes. So you mentioned that the Cayman Islands were announcing a first quarter
record numbers. Yes.
Well, certainly the same is for Jamaica. We ended our first quarter with 1.3 million visitors, the largest we've ever had, and $1.27 billion US dollars, which is again a record for that. So when you look at that number in terms of first quarter, and you do the extrapolation for the year, you see where my predictions were of the 5x4x5.
Yes, you spoke of the big numbers in that sectoral debate presentation, as I've told the viewers. Here's what I want to ask. In the 2023-24 fiscal year, which of course runs from April 1 to March 31 the year after, what is the traditional flat spot for earnings in that fiscal year, and how well did we do in that flat spot last year relative to other years?
Excellent question. Because the flat spot for us, which we call the shoulder months, would be September, October, November, those 3 months. Well, last year, September, October, November outstripped every other similar period in history. So what we are seeing is a flattening out of the arrival situation month by month. So, and that is going to be evident as the room stock increases. Yes. This year, we're bringing 2,000 new rooms on. Now, just the impact of that represents...
How many jobs?
1,500 to 2,000 jobs. Direct, not indirect. Yes. When you add indirect, you're in the region of 3,000 to 4,000. Yes. So what we're seeing in addition is earnings. Yes. And it's not just earnings now for foreign exchange, but it's earnings for the ordinary Jamaican to deal with their economic circumstances. Yes. And I spent a lot of time in this year's presentation outlining how our strategies have been geared towards providing more for the ordinary Jamaican from tourism.
We're going to pick that up in the next segment. We're talking tourism record numbers in 2023-24 and a record-breaking start to this calendar year between January and March. That first quarter, the numbers bigger than ever. We seem on track for another bountiful season. The tourism minister will tell us how the performance of the first 3 months can be sustained over the course of the calendar year and over the course of the new fiscal year. More on the lead story after these.
Jamaica's favorite drama, Your Guilty Pleasure.
You listen to me, is it, Trevor Martin? I don't want you to gamble with my life or the lives of our children.
Royal Palm Estate is on CVM every Tuesday and Sunday at 9 p.m.
Welcome to my corner office.
To your what?
Corner office.
So you were actually
a welder?
No, you live from welding iron to know you're well wig.
My grandfather, he would come to me and say to me, little girl, come out of the mirror. How much time if you tell us and we come out on the stage?
Wig wasn't the thing. Your granny have one wig. You know them, the church wig, the little old stable wig. That time, this industry has evolved. The dolls them in a wig, the Miss Kitties them in a wig, the celebrities overseas in a wig, everybody in a wig.
I'm Celine Gordon, host of Holy Road.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your boy John Mark Wigan, host on the show Holy Road. Listen, people need to know what's happening in the churches and in ministry in all of Jamaica. It's an absolute blessing. We're really excited to share this.
Tune in to CVM. See it happen.
Bollywood has never been this good. Catch Made for Each Other weekdays at 12:30 p.m. on your drama station. Brought to you by
Hyundai. Conditions apply.
It's Ray with space. Ray plays it through. Here's Bell. It's Stanley. Loses it up. Nicholson punished.
Chance here from outside.
Ball into the middle, it's a free header, and it's a goal!
Back with us on Lead Story, we're talking tourism. The tourism minister opened the sectoral debate with a presentation on Tuesday, and in it he spoke of preliminary gross earnings from tourism of $4.38 billion, 2.96 million stopover arrivals, representing a 9.4% increase over the previous record, you know, while cruise arrivals, he said, reached 1.34 million. And it's on cruise arrivals that I want to pick up. I haven't forgotten the point about the welfare of the tourism workers, because we're going to come to that. But for a time, as would be expected after a generation-defining event such as COVID, that cruise numbers fell off, not just for Jamaica, but all over the world. Cruise numbers fell off precipitously. They fell off a cliff. You've reported that we are back up. How did we get back up?
Well, we got back up firstly because we were resilient. As a destination, we understood long ahead of the pandemic that the nature of tourism is that it is highly vulnerable to global shocks, while it is hugely resilient, as it is the fastest recovering economic activity on planet Earth after disruptions, mega disruptions. But you all will appreciate that no disruption has ever equated COVID-19 in the history of mankind on Earth. Yeah. We say in very pedantic terms that it is the most existential threat since Anthropocene.
Yeah, and that's not hyperbole.
It is. And so, but Jamaica, from 2017, when we had Maria and the two mega hurricanes that destroyed Barbuda, if you recall,
Dominica,
98% of the GDP of Dominica, and then went to Puerto Rico. And 60%
and did a number on Puerto Rico as well.
So I started a discussion in London with a team at the World Travel Market, looking at management for crisis in various tourism spaces. And I called at the time for a set of regional institutional activities to deal with these very, very difficult areas that tourism has had to undergo. At the time, in fact, the big push was more for what was happening in the Asian countries. I think we had just had the tsunami, the big tsunami in Indonesia that destroyed a whole coastal township, and some 250,000 people perished. So I made a call then, and then in November of that very year, 2017, we hosted the largest tourism conference for the UN Year of Sustainable Tourism and Development here in Montego Bay. And out of that discussions, we had something called the Montego Bay Declaration, which we wrote, actually, Jamaica did. And the first item on it was to establish a Resilience and Crisis Management Center for, at the time, the region. And that was in a direct response to the weather events that we had.
And you're saying that that plan is what helped you to bounce back?
And that we did. And that we did as a first item. And I took on that, and Professor Wall and myself worked hard on it, and we established the center at the University of the West Indies in 2018. In 2019, we made the first satellite center in the world in Nairobi at the Kenyatta University. And I recall that we opened December 2019. and in March 2020.
WHO declares COVID a pandemic.
Absolutely. So when I went back to the university in 2021, as I walked in, they said, "Here comes the prophet." And funnily, that didn't have a F in it. So
no. There you go. I want to ask you.
But to make the point, really, is that so when COVID began as a threat, and first of all in Europe, when Italy had the awful experience of all its elderly citizens becoming at risk and some dying, and so on, Jamaica established a crisis task force in January of 2020. So by 2020 March, when the world had the declaration from the WHO of a global pandemic, we were now ready to establish a recovery task force.
There you go.
And that recovery task force went to work. And we brought in some consultants too from Pricewaterhouse. I recall Jessica, Shannon, and Professor, he was then Dr. Andrew Spencer, who was head of the TPDCO. And the team around them, with private sector and ministry staff, began to work on the protocols. So we, with the Jamaica Center for Tourism Innovation, which I established in 2017, to train and certify tourism workers, and we'll get there when we start to talk about workers training, then went into virtual training. So the workers, even though they were forlorn or sent off, we were still training them with the protocols. So by June of 2020, we were able to open our doors in Jamaica for touristic purposes, and we never closed.
All right, you were prepared for it. Just before we get to the next segment, I want to point this out. If I use 2019 as a benchmark, for obvious reasons, I want to compare something here, because in 2019, when we had 2.7 million stopover arrivals versus 2.96 million 5 years later in 2024, the issue of the retention of the portion of the tourism dollar that Jamaica retained was an issue. You said, and I'm quoting you, you said, when we took office in 2016, Jamaica was retaining 30 cents of every dollar earned in the industry. We are now, as of 2019, retaining 40.8 cents, a 36% increase. Earlier today at the post-cabinet media briefing, you told the media that we were retaining 40 cents. Now, clearly, direct comparison shows that 2019, 40.8 cents, 2024, 40 cents. That hasn't moved. Well, the portion of the tourism dollar
percentage,
that we're retaining. So talk to me now.
The percentage has not, because we have the issue of the supply chain disruptions. And what that meant was that production levels everywhere fell. And so the call for more importation of certain goods was heavier.
Hold it. I don't want to break you, but I have to, because of the break that is upon us. And it's a very important point you're on, because that needs explanation from you. So we'll take that up in the next segment. This is Lead Story, talking to the tourism minister, talking about the perspectives behind the numbers and what the future holds. More after these.
Hi, I'm Wayne.
And I'm Tammy.
And we are the Mitchells. You can watch Meet the Mitchells right here on CVM TV every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Yes, you guys don't want to miss it. We will be having new episodes every week, so definitely follow along with our family.
Meet the Mitchell family.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
You're the sugar to my tea. Meet the Mitchell family. What's your story? What's your sign? You dreamers. Don't care what other people say. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive. We come alive. We come alive. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive.
UK took a hiatus
like
recently.
A hiatus bus.
Like a hiatus bus, you know, cut left way.
I don't want to age myself by saying dial, but it's an insurance company.
Right next door to Home Electrics. So Mr. look one touch of class.
So exactly. No, I'm going to touch of class. You know the thing. Yeah, man, legendary that one. Yeah, man.
What age is the age as 40. A young man?
The race has begun, I've traveled the seas, I've traveled the waters. Once I was weak, now I'm much stronger. I've worked in the sun, look what I've become. I've conquered the beast, now I'm much greater. I've learned from a failure. Dedication, discipline and drive. Seizing every moment that comes up in this life.
Back with us on Lead Story. In 2016, February 25, 2016, the government changed hands when the Simpson Miller administration was replaced by the Holness-led administration. Ed Bartlett resumed his run as tourism minister at that point. And when he spoke to the nation first in that year, he said that the country at that time was only retaining 30 cents out of every dollar earned from tourism. By 2019, that had moved to 40.8%, a 36% increase. Now in 2024, he says that we're still retaining that 40 cents out of the dollar. So people look at that and say, well, Minister, in 5 years, we haven't improved on how much of each dollar is retained here in Jamaica, and that is a problem. I'm asking him if it is a problem and how is the strategy being formulated to surmount that obstacle,
Right,
Minister.
indeed. So this has been the big push, and if you follow what we've been saying about the economic balance in tourism, the demand side and the supply side. Mm-hmm. Now, the demand side, we're very strong on, as you know. We bring the visitors in.
Yes.
And that, the infrastructure for that is about the airlines, the ships, the hotels, the airports, and all of those things. Mm-hmm. The supply side is the powerful side.
Yes.
That's where the consumption and production values of tourism are met.
Yes.
And the nature of tourism is that it is the most consumer-driven activity on planet Earth. Mm. The propensity to consume of a visitor is 3 to 5 times that of the local.
Yes.
So what it creates now is a huge demand for goods and services that must be provided by our locals.
Yes.
And if it can't be provided by our locals, then it has to be imported.
Yes.
Now, we call that process leakages.
Yes.
And so our job is to build the linkages.
Yes.
And so the linkages will plug the leakages.
Yes.
And that's what we've been on from, I would say, from 2010,
yes,
when I was minister first. I made that speech in Parliament, and we brought in some consultants through the Commonwealth Secretariat support.
But if you allow me to poke the bear, Minister, so you've explained it well in terms of what causes it. So someone will say, well, this is not new information to the government or the ministry. And so, with what you've known all along, why is it that we haven't been able to retain more of the dollar than the 40 cents we did 5 years ago?
Excellent question.
Yes.
And that is the function now of a private sector. Mm. Because the government is not in the business of providing the goods and services.
Yes.
We deal with the legislative and regulatory arrangements, and we work with the infrastructure mainly on the demand side.
Mm-hmm. And you sort out airlift and other important things.
Exactly, and the marketing. So now we have to push our farmers to produce at the level. Mm. And we have been doing that. And the good news is that, recall we came from zero. And zero back to 40 cents is a huge, huge push.
Yes.
And it does make the point that the producers in Jamaica are beginning to respond. Mm-hmm. We want to get further, and we are. So we did 3 strategic engagements to help in this regard. One, we started working very closely with both the agricultural sector and the manufacturing sector. We started to work with also the small farmers.
Yes.
And we established funding arrangements through the Exim Bank, put $1 billion Jamaican in the Exim Bank for the small and medium suppliers to be able to get credit at the lowest interest rates possible of 4.5% at the time. They could borrow a maximum of $25 million. They would be paid over 5 years in keeping with the 5 by 5 by 5. And that what we have seen to date is that over $2 billion have been unlent to 91 companies, small companies.
Ostensibly to expand their capacity to provide, to supply.
Absolutely. And the good news is that we established also the mechanism for marketing. So we train, we fund, and we market. And we established also a platform called Alex. And that Alex platform was for the small farmers, those with acreage of between 0.5 of an acre to 3 acres. And in the last year we did $452 million on that platform. And to date, we've had over $1 billion Jamaican of trade on that platform between small farmers direct to the hotels.
Let me ask you this.
Now to understand where we're going is that small farmers of that nature can't supply the demand for tourism. $365 billion of demand just for fresh fruits and vegetables. Not to talk about meats and, and pots and pans and cans and kettles and bedding and so on and so forth, which are all part of the demand for tourism. So what we're really saying is that we have to step up to the plate of investing more on the supply side so that we can now raise that 40 cents up to 50, 60 cents and beyond.
I want to, usually in this part of the show I give my take, but we're going to stretch this over 2 shows so I can give it at the end in summary. But let me ask you this in the time I'm taking. How much of what is supplied by local suppliers is imported? And does that not undermine what it is that you're trying to create, which is to put local suppliers to supply more of what they produce? Because if you import the supply, you defeat the purpose intended by
Excellent point. You're exactly where my head is. And if you notice yesterday, I started the conversation about a supply logistics center that we're established here in the Free Zone in Jamaica.
Producer is telling me that I'm out of time. So